Hi, and welcome to Curious Conversations, the podcast where curiosity meets connection. Thanks for joining as we discuss captivating stories and ideas and engage in thought-provoking conversations with experts, enthusiasts, and everyday people. We hope to ignite a curious spirit as we embark on a quest for understanding, one curious conversation at a time. So let's jump in this together. Welcome to the world of Curious Conversations. Hello, and welcome to Curious Conversations. We are your hosts, Carly and Mandy. And for this week's episode, we're actually talking about road trips.
That's right. It's perfect timing too, since you and I just took separate road trips. And I can't wait to go over all the things because, time on the road is always a sure way to see some strange and curious things.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I know that you and I've talked a little, but I can't wait to hear your answers. We're asking some very specific questions today, and I'm just excited about it.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. Okay. So before we even dive into anything, we do want to share with you this week's curious dish. So this is part of our show where we dish about the most curious thing that we've seen this week. Mandy, what you got?
Okay, so I'm going to stay with the theme of the road trip because I want to tell you about something curious I saw along the way on the road trip I was just on. So I've seen this before, but I was just noticing it more and just being curious about what this means. Along the way, where we were going, I kept seeing all these billboards and signs that were about dodging amputation. You don't want amputation. Have you seen these signs south of here?
Nope.
Okay. I mean, they're doing some serious marketing on
Okay.
amputations. So sometimes it'll be an image, a very disturbing, like a black foot, rotting toes. Looks like something horrible. And it's like, call us, we can fix it. So I kind of thought it was cool that they're just this confident, right? They're like,
Oh my gosh.
it's weird because they're thinking, okay, everybody else says, like medical people have said, you need to take this whole foot off, this leg off. And yet they're saying, no, we've got you right here. I was like, what is this? Okay. So I see these again this year and I'm noticing they've changed their marketing. They've taken some of the pictures off. So there's only some scattered pictures. And I'm just curious because they're stamped all through Eufaula, Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah, which I love that area, by the way. Have you been through Eufaula?
I have not.
You would
No.
like
I don't
it.
even know where that is.
Okay, so it's lake after lake after lake. There's tons. It may be the same lake, and I'm sounding dumb. There's a lot. I think if you cross a bridge, it's a new lake, right? That's how it works.
Absolutely.
Lake 1, Lake 2, Lake 3.
That's
Anyway, they're through there. It's this little quaint little town, beautiful downtown with all these gorgeous houses. And then there's all these horrific signs. So I get home. I'm like, I want to know what this is. I've seen this. And it's a place called Wiregrass. And they do some amputations, but they try to prevent that, which is amazing to me. And I'm like, how do you guys do that? So they go about it by checking all they've got some sort of something over my head, ways of figuring out how many different bacteria are in the foot, the hand, the whatever, that's going on to cause the problem. And they basically pinpoint those very different ones and work on those individually instead of like what you would think of as an antibiotic that just covered like a broad spectrum.
mm-hmm.
They're individualizing each of those things to target to start healing.
Really?
Yeah, it was very fascinating to me because, I'm running through there thinking, oh my gosh, is this like what they talk about where you put the maggots in and it eats the bad stuff? Uh, because I'm doing anything before I lose something if I can.
Right.
And I mean, our son just studied that at school, so that's still a thing, I guess. But no, they're talking about different ways to treat each individual and breaking that down. Very fascinating.
You know what? That, I mean, could be life-changing for someone, though.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Oh,
Hmm.
I love it. But the sights, it's such a pretty town, and you just keep seeing these billboards, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? They're pretty cocky. They know they can take care of you. They're like,
I
we're gonna
love it.
get this. Yeah, very interesting. What about
Okay.
you?
Well, mine is going to go in a little bit of a different path, but I'm still going to, we're talking about road trips. I'm actually going to talk about a road trip that you would take on water. And it's something that I happened to come across, started doing some research. We get on those rabbit trails.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a cruise ship that sank. And probably our listeners have heard of it. You may have heard of it. I'm not sure, but it's the Costa Concordia. I don't know if you heard of that,
Nope.
but it is a cruise ship that sank. I'm talking a couple of football fields away from land, and 32 people died. And
Okay, I do know this. I did not know the name of it. And I saw some pictures just like searching for vacation. And then they're like, but there's this. So don't forget this. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did I miss this?
so I went into it just completely not sure how 32 people would pass away on a ship where you could literally jump off and swim, to safety. Um, But as I started, digging in, it was almost shocking to me. First of all, I do think that the captain did spend some time in prison. He abandoned the ship. I think he was more worried about the name of the ship than reporting that there was something actually wrong. And so there's a whole story behind it. And there's some documentaries you can watch, some things you can look up on YouTube that are very interesting. But essentially, you've got a lot of people that are together, and there's mass panic, and they're looking for someone to guide them. And this captain was just not the guy. He should not have been the guy in charge. And so you've got people that stayed on a ship too long because that's what they were told to do. They just put on their little, their life jackets that are around the neck and stood on a boat as it turned sideways. But there were just certain things that I never thought of when a ship is going down. Essentially, you've got walls that become floor and floors that become walls. It's completely sideways. And so you think of a hallway that you would normally just walk down, it becomes like a trap. You're just going
Mm.
straight down if you step into it. It's terrifying and really tragic. Some of the stories were just very tragic.
Yeah, I didn't look into that because so I don't do cruises. And I don't think my family's that crazy about that. But um I'm
Yes.
like, this doesn't help. This doesn't help me.
I thought about doing should I try a cruise? But yeah, after that, I'm not really so sure. Not
I
so sure.
know. I know. And I'm sure there's something with everything and you could just stay home and, live alone. But also I like the beach. Like we like to be at the beach. And that's a lot of just like nonstop traveling to the beach. So I think it's people that like all the entertainment type things. But if you want your
Yes.
toes in the sand, you're not getting a whole lot of that.
Yeah, if you're a pool person,
Yeah.
that's free. And if you're an all you can eat, yeah, absolutely. That would be my draw for a cruise. It's all you can eat. You can just keep eating. I love that.
Yeah, my stepson liked it because all the ice cream that you can eat. And I'm like, I can't do that much ice cream and it's soft serve and I don't do soft serve. We've had this conversation. No.
Yes.
Nope.
Oh,
So,
well,
okay. That's scary, but I've got to say before we go forward, I thought you
yeah.
were going to say something and read my mind because my husband's probably going to hit you up for this because he's telling everybody he knows. Did you know that you can go to like, I don't know, South Florida. I don't know if you're going all the way to the Keys or somewhere. You can get on a jet ski and take to the Bahamas.
Yeah, it's 90 miles, right? It's not far.
It's not far, and this is what he wants to do now. Is just get on the jet ski. I'm like, golly, how long are you riding on a jet ski? And he's making it sound, yeah, simple and short. And yeah.
So we might need to talk because we're literally looking at sailboats so that we can sail to the Bahamas and island hop for a little while. So that might be a thing.
Okay, so then you're taking my husband on vacation with you guys, is what I heard.
We're gonna need a bed in the back. Yep, got it.
Okay, see y'all. I'll catch y'all afterwards then. All right, that's enough for water stuff. I'm really not that big into getting away from land.
Yeah, right. Well, I both went on road trips and it was just a few weeks apart. I think that's something we have in common. We love the road tripping and the hey, let's just go take off and do something fun. Um, so we went to the same state. We both visited Florida this time, but I think that we probably had very different experiences based on where we went.
Yeah, so yeah, completely different from what I understand. I was on the back of a motorcycle headed for Panama City, and you were.
I was in a car. I was in my Jeep, but we were headed to visit our hometowns. Yeah, that's Fort Pierce, Florida, and Frostproof, Florida.
Okay, and that's like middle Florida, right? Am I correct?
Central, yeah, pretty central. Fort Pierce is not. It's on the ocean, but
Yeah,
Frostproof, Florida is
Frostproof.
is very central.
That's what I was thinking. So I know some of the central areas, but I don't know that. I've never been there. So yeah, we've got to do the share. We've not been to each other's places.
I know. I know. That's weird.
Yeah. So okay. So let's talk about that. Let's before we get into all our specific things. Um, let's talk about one thing. Say it
Okay.
again. Say Florida.
Florida.
So I'm told I say it like FLA. Florida.
Florida.
Florida. I say two syllables. Florida.
Yeah, I kind of over pronunciate everything though, but I say Florida.
Yeah,
Florida.
that's because you're from there, right? That's how you say it if you're from
Maybe.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I've heard people say that live there say Florida. I'm from Florida. Have you
Oh,
heard that?
I have not. I have
It
not
drives
heard
me a little
that.
crazy.
Yeah, it's funny when somebody lives somewhere how they say that, and then that's the truth. That's the right way. Um, but
Yes.
so I always had this thing that used to joke about how people from Florida they they don't have an accent. Like they lose an accent. You can't
Mhm.
tell where they're from. It's just sort of a neutral accent. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I feel like Florida is a melting pot of people. Um, so it gives it a really rich culture. You can find a lot of different people with a lot of different ideas and backgrounds, and it makes it a beautiful place to visit. But there are so many different accents. It's really hard to pinpoint a Florida accent.
Mhm.
Um, but I will say it's the opposite in Georgia. I moved to Georgia and then I would go back and visit Florida, and people in Florida would say, "You talk so Southern now."
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I don't think of you as Southern at all. In fact, somebody told me, I heard the podcast and your partner on there, she's not real Southern, is she? I can hear your twang. I'm like,
I
yeah,
I guess I still have a little Florida in me. I don't know.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's funny though. We had family that moved down and I have watched their accent change and it feels like it's pulled. The Georgia has been pulled out and it's just something different. It's funny how you pick up on all the things surrounding you. You don't even realize you're doing it.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
My gosh. Okay, well, I had to cover that before, I can feel you maybe rolling your eyes over there with my Florida.
Nah,
Nah, not too much, right?
not too much.
Okay, so let's talk about where you went.
Yeah. So I did. I went to Fort Pierce. That is, my fiance grew up in Fort Pierce. He actually he grew up on a sailboat, which is super interesting. I keep saying I'm going to have him on here one day to talk about growing up on a sailboat because that is definitely a curious thing. Um, his childhood experiences are very different from mine. So we went down there and visited his hometown and some of the boatyards that he used to frequent and the places where, he spent with his dad and his brother and all very interesting. And then we went to Frostproof, which is not a lot of people have heard of Frostproof. I typically have to repeat it when I say that's where I'm from. But it's just a teeny tiny little town in Central Florida. And we wanted to visit there. I wanted to take him and show him where I grew up and where I hung out and got to spend some time with my parents who still live in that area. So it was a great time.
Oh my gosh, I did not know about the sailboats. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
I can't imagine though. I want to hear those stories because yeah, that like I love to look out and see one and I'm thinking, how are they on that thing and not just feeling like they're lost at sea? It
Uh,
just makes me feel a little nervous.
yeah, yeah, I get that.
Okay, so yeah, my place was completely different. People might not know Frostproof, but I bet you they know Panama City because that makes all the headlines.
Absolutely. Everybody knows PCB.
That's right. And sometimes those headlines are not so grand. It's got to where now when we go down there, there's always you hear some tragic accident while you're on vacation, and that's you hate to hear of those things. But I grew up going to Panama City. This was, all my life I went. In fact, we talked some about this early on in our podcast about side I'm going to get it right in just a second.
Uh-huh.
Roadside attractions. I wanted to say, I wanted to say shows. It's not shows. It's
Yeah.
roadside attractions. And I talked about Panama City and how my family always went there. So now we always go there. But then we do a motorcycle trip at least once a year there doing
Which
the
I
rounds.
love.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the ride is so much fun and we had great weather but Panama City in general has grown so much, but it's always been that touristy place. There's a little, I could tell you if you're going like where to go that you would like, because I think you like those little secret places and those are fun too. But we really like those what we call hand squeezing places. And we
Yeah.
just walk through and it's like, did you see that?
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, why do you call them hand squeezing? Yeah.
That like did you is a discreet way of like, oh my gosh. And then I'm like, you're breaking my hand. I see it. I see it.
I get it. Yeah. The head nod. Look over here. Look
Yeah,
over here.
do you
Yeah.
see that? And 9 out of 10 times they're wanting you to see that. So, you know,
Right.
it's all working together. But yeah, that place is a little wild at times.
Okay. Well, you know what? I do want to comment on going to Florida on a bike. I've done it. We just went to Tallahassee, which is, you know, just right in there. Um, it was rough. That's a long time to be on the back of a bike, and I had a nice seat. So I don't know. I would do it again, absolutely. But it is a long ride, and I truly believe I had COVID on the way home. Like we were stopping at parks so that I could sleep on picnic tables. It was bad.
Oh my
So bad.
gosh. So that's always a fear of mine. We get farther away from home and I'm like, what if I get a migraine? What if I get sick?
Right.
What am I going to do? So that's it. You just keep stopping and being miserable. I did that one time on the way back from Tennessee. I had a fever. I had gotten sick, like upper respiratory sick, and I had a fever and I just kept kind of leaning forward on my husband and just like counting the minutes. You're just counting it.
Yep.
What can you do? You're kind of a zombie and you just get through it. It's not fun.
Absolutely. Well, we were talking about hand squeezing and head nodding. Let's stick with that theme as we go into our first question, which is what was the weirdest thing you saw or experienced on your trip?
Okay, so the area we stayed in, I was a little bit curious before we left what it was going to be like when we get there because it had been hit by, it wasn't a hurricane, but it was hurricane like. It was a tornado.
Mm.
several months back, and got this one particular area it's called the Captain Anderson's area. It's a marina, and it's on the, backs up to the bay and all that. So we weren't staying directly on the beach. That area got hit really hard. And so we weren't quite sure what to expect, but we'd seen some of the pictures and all that. So we get there, and I've never stayed quite in that section. We stay a little bit farther down the road when we do a family vacation. So we walked through there, and we're just kind of taking note of the places. So a lot of it's been cleaned up, obviously, the marina and the bigger places that need to keep running. But there is a place on down through there, and it's sort of it's not just a tourist. I think it's like a pay by the week kind of place. So I guess you could stay there, but I think it's a little mix. Some people live there. It's old. It's been there a while. Solid brick. So the front of that has been torn off, and everything's still standing. So it looks like a dollhouse. You're seeing the rooms are still set up. The furniture is
Oh,
not blown out. So you look into one little square, and it's a living room area with a lamp. And I mean, it was weird. It's like you're looking at a dollhouse. Another one's like the bedroom, and you're seeing bed. It's like they didn't take anything out, but all that, it's a little disheveled, but it's not gone. It's not blown out. And that, storms like that do some weird stuff.
right.
There's
Oh,
like the
that's
hit and
crazy.
miss. Yeah, it is. And then on the sides of it, those buildings are fine. And then maybe one behind that is just demolished. So it's weird how those kind of things, tornadoes and hurricanes hit. But this one to me was so weird. It was just like you removed that front panel, and all those bricks were gone, and you could see each little square room. I just thought that was wild.
How eerie.
Yeah, it was. I have no idea why I don't have a picture of that. I don't know why I don't. I know I take a picture of everything,
Yeah, that
but
would have been a good one.
yeah, it was weird.
Well, I will say probably the weirdest thing that I saw, and it definitely wouldn't be weird to the residents of Fort Pierce, but we went into some areas of Fort Pierce where I kept seeing a lot of art, and I love art. I love folksy, just there was art on trees, everywhere. You see people just leave their little mark, and it seems to be very accepted in that area. And I did discover we were in a place called, I think it's called Peacock Art District of Fort Pierce. Um, but as we're driving by a wall that has a massive peacock painted from one side to the other, I saw an actual peacock. Like, it was in a tree, an actual live peacock, and I was like, "Look at
Oh,
that." And so, my fiancé started telling me the story, but there's a whole thing to it. There's a lot of peacocks, and we stopped, and you can watch them, and there's a bunch of them. They just kinda hang out in the trees, and on the fence of this certain area, there's a lot of signs on the road that say "Peacock Crossing," so you don't hit them. But back in, let's see, it's a gentleman named Jackson Crane that started this whole thing. He was born in Illinois, but he moved to Fort Pierce. He actually got married, and him and his wife were in Fort Pierce, and um, they started a travel agency there in Fort Pierce. They had a couple of businesses, but one was just called the American Travel Agency. And when he opened that, he had a love for art, and he had a love for peacocks. And so he bought peacocks, and they walked around the grounds of this travel agency, which is pretty perfect. That's some great marketing. No. You see
yeah.
something kind of off and exotic looking, and you're like, "Man, I wanna go somewhere cool." I thought it was brilliant. Um, he did pass away in 2016. He was 90 years old. He
Wow.
passed away, and the peacocks are still there. Those are still,
Oh,
the I guess the children of the peacocks that he put there. I don't know how long peacocks live, but they're still there. And I don't know. I looked it up to see who's taking care of these peacocks, but somebody is because they're well taken care of. And there's even a couple of roosters that have come in and I don't know, made friends with the peacocks, I guess. It's so interesting.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, one thing always leads to another. And so I have to make a couple of comments on this. That's really cool. I don't know that place, so I don't know about all that. That sounds amazing. I like to, as much as I say I like the hand squeezing, I like the little secret, neat little niche places too. And so
Yeah,
that sounds fun. It makes me think my mom had a neighbor who had a peacock, and it just showed up at her house one day, and she had it for years, but they were so close it would wander over to my mom's, and she'd never know when it was going to be there, and she could get pretty close to it, but if it didn't like something, it would like shake its feathers. It made this rustling sound like you're too close now. And anyway, that I don't know what happened after she moved away, but that was the closest I had ever encountered a peacock like that. The wing spread of those feathers is a lot larger than you think.
absolutely.
Very cool. I mean, I might have seen one at a zoo or something like that, but just to have in the yard, like you're doing your little gardening and you look, oh, there it is. It's right there. But they're
They're
beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yes, they are beautiful. They are beautiful. And then, so the other thing it made me think of when you were saying that they were there and they're still there today. So I had family down in Inverness, Florida, and I don't know the names of all those places that are right around there because I would just visit them once in the summer. But there was a place owned down, and you may know this really cool restaurant that I can't think of the name of right now, but it was right on the water. We just went the one time. But I'm looking out and I'm telling them, I promise you, I see monkeys. I promise you, I see monkeys on that little island. Do you know that place? There's
I have
monkeys on an
heard.
island.
Yep. Yep, I've heard about it.
Yeah, so I'm asking the server, I'm like, excuse me, because it doesn't look like anything anybody's going to, but I'm seeing just this tiny island, like I guess that's the river or what do they call them? It's just like the little waterway, the channel or something.
Yep.
Somebody's rolling their eyes at me out there, but
I know.
anyway, it's one of those things. And then there's just like this little clump out there with trees and such. And they say, oh, yeah, it's monkeys, but nobody really goes out there because they were brought out years ago and they just kind of took over.
Yep.
Like Planet of the Apes, but small. What is going
That's
on?
yeah, exactly, exactly. They took over the area. Yeah, I think that's fascinating. And I just want to see them.
I love monkeys.
Me too.
I always wanted a monkey. I did not get one. I know somebody who had a monkey and they say they're quite a mess.
Yep. Read that too.
Yeah, a little different than dogs and cats, I guess.
Yes. Yeah,
Uh,
that's right.
okay, well, I just wondered if you knew because I knew you knew kind of that area, and I'm like, I was not making up monkeys on an island. I
Yeah.
promise
Nope.
you.
That's a thing. That's a thing.
Okay, so I feel like we've already talked about our talking points here because we've touched on so many different things, but we talked about what we saw. What was the most interesting thing that you did either along the way or while you were at one of these locations, or both?
Okay. Okay. Here, yeah, the entire trip had interesting points to it, some personal reasons and some not. But I will say, we went down there to snorkel. I like snorkeling, and I'm really into nature. Just anything that gets me connected with nature in some way, it just feels very grounding. And so that was it. For me is let me find my peace with the earth and what's in it. And so in doing that, I had some really cool opportunities, snorkeling with fish, and they were hiding in my hair. That was probably my top thing. I wanted to stay right there, with these little fish that I felt like I had connected with. They were just hiding from bigger fish, I'm sure, but it was neat, but we found a place where you could feed squirrel, they would come right up and eat peanuts and stuff out of your hands, and I thought that was awesome. But the one thing that I found very interesting in the city of Fort Pierce, they have these lizards, and they don't look normal. They don't fit in really well. They're actually called African redhead. I'm going to mess this up, but agames or agamis. I'm not really sure.
I don't know.
The I have no idea. Somebody will correct me, but
Yep.
they male lizards, they have a bright orange head, which is where I think they get the red head. But their bodies are very dark blue and their tails are multicolored. Sometimes I've seen them referred to as rainbow lizards. Have you heard that term?
Oh, but this sounds like a lot of color going on.
It's a ton, and it is beautiful. I got a lot of photos because they're everywhere, but you don't see a lot of any other type of lizard in the area. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd. And so I kind of started digging in, as we do. Um, they're actually an invasive species, and they've kind of spread all over like the Treasure Coast of Florida, essentially. But they're increasing in population, and I think they're probably taking out a lot of the other lizards that are supposed to be in the area, that are more indigenous to that area. They brought in originally as pets, and I think they just let some go. And I heard it was from a pet store. The pet store was like, "Here, we don't want to sell these anymore," or whatever. I don't know what happened, but they have a fast reproduction cycle, and they don't have any natural predators. And so these little guys really truly have taken all over Fort Pierce. You'll see them everywhere. They're more prevalent than any other bug that I saw there. Kind of like the
Wow.
cicadas here, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, we
But
talked
they're there
about
to
that.
stay. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, oh my god.
But you can't kill them. Poisons and repellents don't take them out, and so there's just so many of them, um, taking over the area, but they're gorgeous. It's fun to see.
Yeah, they probably just think we're in their area. What are
Yeah.
those people doing here?
Could you guys get out, please? We're trying
Yeah,
to
this
populate.
yeah, we're trying to have a whole thing here. You guys are in the
Yeah.
way.
I just found that so interesting, and the story behind it very interesting. But what about you?
Okay. Mine's mine's a little different. That's what we always do. We pair so well. Mine's a little bit different. So when we go for the bike week, it's not bike week, that's really Daytona, but it's like the long weekend in Panama City. They do that in the spring and the fall. Usually along the way, we stop by. I've talked before about the little roadside museum that's along the way in Sill, Alabama. That was on one of our previous podcasts. That's super cool. We didn't stop there this time, but anytime you're headed down there, I'm going to tell you exactly where that is because you've got to check it out. All the strange things, and
Awesome.
anybody listening can find that on our podcast too. We did some pictures and such, but so we did things like that. I mean, we didn't do things like that, but we did the other things we do, like Angelo's Steakhouse, those kind of things. But what we try to shove in is all the motorcycle stuff.
Right.
So we'll do more on our family vacation, but the motorcycle rally is like a main hub of the large rally that's in town, and then there's all these little things off of it. So it's a parking lot like at the Harley shop, or it's at a bar, or it's at a restaurant, and everybody's got their parking lots open. And a lot of this is the same stuff. You're seeing the same shirts, the same kind of jewelry, but there's a couple down where we normally stay that are interesting. One is behind Miss Newbies. If you ever go to Panama City, if you're a drinker, that's the place. Like that's where everybody goes.
Okay.
It's large.
Hmm.
So you talk about hand squeezing. That's where you go to see that.
Uh-huh.
Because as you're walking through with, your soda and your
Yeah.
straight support, and everybody's doing all the crazy and they don't know that they're quite crazy. Yeah, a lot of hand squeezing there. So
Uh,
we did check that out, and you've got everything from all the like custom bikes to look at. That's fun. Everybody's showing off their stereo system, how their bike lights up, all the little things. It's like show and tell for adults. And the funny thing about the spring rally is it's a lot like spring break, but for every single age. So you've got like 18, 19 to literally 70s. I mean, everything
um,
in between.
yeah.
Everybody's doing the thing, and it's fun for a while, and then sometimes it's alarming, and sometimes you wish you hadn't seen certain things, and some things you'll always remember. You've got in that parking lot anything from, hey, come on up to the pole and try your hand at pole dancing, because that's on the side of the road, just for
Oh,
fun. Here's your chance. See if you've got what it takes. That's what
I
I'm
mean, you
saying.
might as well make a TikTok while you're there.
Right. You don't know. You might have been missing your calling.
Oh my gosh.
There's a mechanical bull. If you've always wanted to try that, you could just try that. Nobody lasts at all. Nobody does their 8 seconds. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
yeah, everybody's falling over. But my favorite was a little more PG. Was farther down the road. There's another, it's like the smaller version. They always have something fun going on. Last year it was bicycles and motorcycles, and they're doing all these tricks and stuff. And it's just like a little small place. But I think normally it's like a custom shop or something. They had a guy with a whole stick of fire doing like the swirly fun things with that. I don't know what you call that. What's somebody who plays with fire legally?
Uh, yeah, I don't know. Fire swirler guy.
Fireman. That doesn't sound right.
I
There's
think that's
something.
the opposite.
Yeah.
Fire guy.
It's fire guy. And anyway, so this guy's out there with like a long stick baton type thing with fire on both ends, and he's twirling and having fun. So I'm like, oh my gosh, go back there. That's what I want to see. So that's fun for me.
Like, how neat would that be? I love that. And it's always good to stumble upon stuff and you're just like, that's it right there. That's one
Yes.
of the highlights of my trip.
Yeah, pull in here. And that's what all that is. It's like cramming in just a few days. We don't go for the whole thing. I think it's like 5 days. We go for, maybe 3 days, and you're cramming in all the sights and all the things in a short amount of time, and then of course you want to grab a little beach time, food time, all the regular things, but you want that show and tell. It is everywhere. It is, if you ever want to just go and you're not the teen to 20 something year old person, you can go and during this time, and it's your spring break too, all over again.
All right. I'm going to talk to you about how crazy it can get on those back roads. We don't do a whole lot of the party scene, not really the touristy areas. We do a lot of back road stuff and
Yep.
those hideaway beaches, but I am an avid seashell collector. I love seashells. I love anything I can pick up and keep and feel like I'm bringing outside inside. Well, we found a beach that we wanted to walk along and find our seashells. Um, Absolutely stumbled onto a nude beach.
Did you?
We sure
And
did.
oh, you stumbled? Is that like quote unquote? You stumbled
Yeah.
upon a new beach?
There's signage, so you don't
Okay.
it's not an accident. You can tell I don't have an issue with nude beaches. I enjoy them, but it's not you're talking about some of those 70 plus, that's what you're gonna get there. I saw a lot of 70 plus naked guys. So
Okay. Yeah, I understand that's very different than what we are all hoping it is, right? It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, there's
Everybody
no
experiences.
poles out there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I think that's what they wanted going on the main strip on my trip, but
Right.
wasn't quite there. Okay, so that's interesting. I've never like I don't even know where to go for that. I have no
Yeah.
idea. Um
Surely there's an app for that. I don't know.
I think they're probably, yeah, there's an app for that. I don't have that nerve in me. I would just be the voyeur that everybody hated because the clothes would stay on.
It's liberating. I don't know, there's something about it. It's definitely not what you would expect it to be, but it's neat. It's interesting. It's an experience, I'll say that.
I'll live vicariously through you, okay?
All right. Well, I will say, a lot of people like to experience different things when they're on their road trips and they're on their vacations. But one thing that's probably unanimous across the board, everyone loves vacation food,
Yes.
trying new places, and so that's kind of what is our third topic. We're going to talk about some strange food. I will say, we're definitely really big on trying new coffee shops. And that's not just on road trips. I will drive an hour to try a brand new coffee shop. And I think that's, you and I have that in common. We're both coffee connoisseurs. We
Yep.
love it. Love it.
Yep.
And then when you're in Florida, you're always chasing that fresh seafood. Um, we ate on the water every single night. It was a different seafood restaurant and seeing. I love mahi. What's your favorite seafood? Do you have
Okay,
one?
so that's what my husband likes. That's not a big thing for me. Oysters. Oysters is my thing.
Oh,
Yep. Fried, preferably fried with the center very soft. Just
okay.
want that coating. I want that coating but it's like I compare it to chicken livers. I want chicken livers coated and the inside very soft.
You just named two things that I do not eat.
Yeah, I thought maybe so. They're acquired taste, right?
I guess I won't be acquiring, but
I'm gonna make you.
but I do love some blackened mahi. I mean, just throw it on a salad, on a taco, on a plate. I don't care. I love it, and I love crab cakes. So I'm always on the search for the perfect crab cake.
Okay, I
Um,
like those too. If there's enough crab to it and they haven't tried to push something on you that is like, came in a truck and it's, stuffed full of everything except the actual meat.
exactly. It should be mostly fresh crab meat.
Yeah. I like seared tuna a lot too. I'll add that to the list. I'm big
I
on
do
that.
like tuna. I do.
Hmm.
I do. Well, I am going to, for this one, I'm going to bring us back to Central Florida, to my hometown of Frostproof. Hmm. Um, yeah, if you are ever near that area, make the trip to eat at a place called P&J's Recreation, I believe is what it's called. It's been there forever. I remember, being a kid, I wasn't allowed to go near there because it is a bar. But they have something called the pool room hamburger. It is and I think that's maybe I called it that. I don't know if I've ever seen that name, but it's a pool hall, so I call it the pool room hamburger. They have a slogan called "Get Slawed," and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But these hamburgers, I don't know what's different about them. I don't know what makes them so good, or maybe it's just the nostalgia of my childhood that makes them so good. But they're slaw burgers and they're fantastic. And you don't have to go into the bar. They've got like a little window where you can just order and walk up. And that's what I do even as an adult because I just hear my mom in the back of my head. I'm not allowed to go in that building.
Oh my gosh, that's funny the things that stick with us. And it's like, wait, how old am I?
But I'm gonna share it. It's not the food that is strange or weird. It is part of the atmosphere around that slaw burger. This establishment also offers what is referred to as slaw wrestling. Have you heard that?
Slaw wrestling. I'm guessing this doesn't mean you win some slaw. If it's like arm wrestling and you get a cup of slaw. I'm thinking it's not
Oh,
that.
no, nope, that's not it.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
You can find videos online, and it's not just
Okay.
this establishment. I actually went in I wanted to see the rules. What are the rules of slaw wrestling?
Of course you
What are the
did.
qualifications? Yeah, yeah.
Give me the
Um,
specifics.
yeah, I wanted the details. So I looked it up, and you can find some very interesting videos online, of ladies wrestling in a kiddie pool flat full of coleslaw.
So you're using that term, ladies, loosely. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are some colorful characters,
Yeah.
across the country that are wrestling in coleslaw. I did expect that it would be more of like the ladies in the skimp bikinis, and it was
Huh?
more of a show to draw in the guys. That is not what I got. It's an actual thing. There were ladies in there that they were pretty beefed up. And so I'm expecting more of like the cat scratch and the pulling the hair. And the first video I watched, I mean, as soon as the bell went off, the lady just body slammed this girl into a tub of coleslaw. And I thought, "Oh, this is different."
Oh my gosh. So I kind of love that. But I'm thinking, so tell me this, because I've not seen this. Is this like there's just enough to sort of coat the body, or do we have like a couple of feet going on, of
Yeah,
cabbage
I
and
would say
things?
I would say probably a little less than a foot of coleslaw in the bottom, just enough to make it pretty slippery. You're slip sliding around in there. But these poor girls would come out and they have coleslaw on their face and in their hair, and I'm thinking they're going to be blowing coleslaw out of their nose for a week. And can you imagine the smell?
Yeah.
As the mayonnaise starts to heat up with their body temps. Oh, I just thought at first I thought that's probably a little too trashy for me, but it's
Once you
actually
warmed up to it.
yeah. I mean, if you really just look past the fact that it's coleslaw, it's interesting, and it draws a crowd. There was massive crowds in every location that offered this. There were a lot of people in there. It's a big thing, so who knows?
Okay, so I'm always looking for that side hustle. So I'm thinking maybe North Georgia needs a little bit of that slaw. Is that what you're thinking? Like
Maybe
weekends?
we can bring that up here. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. That puts a new meaning. Here's my corny joke for the day. It puts a new meaning to all making all the cabbage. Is that right? We'll
Look
just
at
we'll just
you.
set up. Like we'll set up at the local park or something.
I
Yeah,
like it. I
that
like
sounds
it.
right. That sounds right. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm thinking of when you go to the beach and you're sitting in the sand and then you go back to the hotel and you're like, God, how much sand is there? Because it seemed like a good idea at the time. And the sand
Huh?
keeps coming out of everywhere. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you go back and then it's just a whole thing. It just the ideas keep getting grosser and grosser.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's okay, that's very interesting. And now
It's
you know what I'm
interesting.
Googling.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta look into it a little bit because it's definitely, it'll keep you entertained for a minute. I will say, took my fiancé, he ate a slaw burger, and then we met with my dad, and my dad said, "Yeah, after they wrestle, they recycle that slaw." Of course, he was joking, but,
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah,
we
how
hope.
warm was it? How warm was the slaw? Yeah, I don't think I could have the slaw burger with the slaw wrestling at the same place. It would just be in my head. Like I'm
Yeah.
easily influenced by something I'm eating. Like the visual of something. I always want to make this cake and it's a cat litter box cake and I can't bring myself to
Oh,
do it.
I know. I know. I've seen it.
Yeah, I've even wanted to do it for someone else who's a big cat person and I'm like, I can't partake in this after I make it. I know the pan's clean, but I can't do it. It's that visual. I
Yeah.
can't there's no way I'm eating a piece of that cake.
Uh-huh.
Mm-mm. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's very entertaining. So mine, I can't follow that. Mine may sound a little bland, but it was neat at the time. Um, okay, so we were staying in Panama City and we decided to ride over, because that's another thing about going on the motorcycle is then that's kind of the hub, and then you ride off to other places and check those out. So it's tons of riding and you're just exhausted afterwards, but it's a lot of fun. So we ride over to Mexico Beach and Port St. Joe. And I understand you know that area. I didn't know it beforehand, but
Yeah, I do. I have an aunt that lives in Port St. Joe, and then I've gone a couple of times on our little writers retreat over in Cape San Blas, which is just past Port St. Joe. Beautiful area, kind of, just quiet, peaceful, not super populated. I love it.
yeah, so it seemed like your kind of area, and then we talked about that afterwards. So for me, I feel like I've kind of went away from the fun scene and ventured out, and it's like, oh, the sun's going down, I got to get back home, and I feel sort of panicky, like I'm out on an island. But it was
Yeah.
beautiful, and we went through the Cape San Blas area. I'd never been there before. I saw a house that looked like a cheese ball. I don't know if it was there before, but I used to have a recipe for a sweet cheese ball. It's like the cream cheese with chocolate chips. This
Yeah.
house looked like that. Have you ever seen that there?
No, but that's
Okay.
interesting.
I'm going to throw that up on our page then because it's like a house, and then beside it is this whole round top house with what looks like I don't know. It looks like a cheese ball to me. So I'm going to see what everybody else thinks if it's the cheese ball. But anyway, we just
Okay.
did we went down through that little area and looked at the houses, but we went to eat. The whole point was going to eat as usual to a place called Indian Pass Raw Bar. Do you know this place?
I don't. I
Okay,
don't
so
do
that
raw
is,
bars.
yeah. So I was a little bit like, okay, here's me. I tried raw oysters for the first time last year. It's okay. I didn't die. I didn't flip out, but it just is like, okay, so I ate a couple of raw eggs. It doesn't feel like a meal. It doesn't feel like even like an appetizer. So
Sure.
they've got that. I guess that's their specialty or whatever, because everything's so fresh there. But it's literally in the middle of nowhere, and we pull up and there's, every motorcycle in Florida is there. But the cool thing, something I thought was really cool, besides the fact that their food was delicious, they have coolers of drinks. So it's like soft drinks and beers and such. And that's on, so the beers and all that you get, that's like on an honor system. So they don't deal with that. So you go in, you put your name down, and then you could just grab some beers for your friends and go sit out on the porch. And you get a little piece of paper and you just check how many you've had. So you just keep adding to it. Or if you've gotten like I got a bottled tea, and you just put that down on the thing, and the rest of the group, and it's a whole honor system on your drinks.
Oh my
So,
gosh. So the more your beers in, you might forget to make your tick marks on your sheet.
yeah, I was curious, from a technical standpoint, like what are they losing here? But I'm thinking that's cool. And I heard a few different people talk about it, that they thought that was neat. And people were coming in, like, oh, everybody likes to claim that they're the local. You know how people do that with like, oh, I've
Yep.
been here so many times. I don't know what that is. So they're like, oh, it's just the honor system. I kept hearing people say things. So evidently that works in their favor, because it's a little thing that they have, it's a little special thing that they do. And I guess it keeps them from having to fool with that at that moment. You go get your drink. I'm trying to make the food here.
I like that. I like it a
Mhm.
lot, and it kind of like takes you back to that time where it was just, you could be trusted. A lot of stuff used to be on the honor system. So that's
Yeah.
a great draw.
I think it was kind of like a little gimmick, like a little fun thing to these people. So they got on board with it. Like, yeah, I get to mark down my drinks here. It's just funny. I just thought, hey, that's great. I love that. And we got some really good food. I had baked oysters that were delicious, and some really good gumbo. And I might go there again. It's about an hour and a half, I guess, out, something like that, because we're just kind of cruising. And but I did put our sticker on the front door, so our QR for Curious Conversations is right there. If I never go back again, I've made my mark.
I love it. And I have a picture of that you shared with me. So
Yeah,
that's
we need to.
awesome.
Yeah, I have so many pictures backed up. Do you do that? Like, I'm ready to spend the summer just sort of sharing what all I've banked here.
Yep. Yeah, I do. I do. Well, I'm gonna have to try the Indian Pass Raw Bar. I wonder if they have crab cakes or mahi. Probably. I would think so.
I don't remember what all they had. I zoned in on oysters, so that was my thing. But anyway, they didn't have the fried oysters, but the baked ones were delicious.
All right. All right. Well, we have had fun today. This has been great.
Yeah.
I love road tripping, and if I can't road trip, then I want to talk about road tripping and planning the next one. So this has been fun.
Yep.
Hey, we want to hear from you guys out there listening. What's your favorite road trip thing? What have you seen on a road trip that has been just odd, weird? We want to hear it. We want to talk about it. So be sure to reach out and let us know what you've got. And tune in next week because we're going to keep going.
Well, listen, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, where we post exclusive content, contests, and so much more. And of course, you can keep up with our episodes through Podbean or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And as always, if you have a story that sparks curiosity, or you have something that you want us to talk about, just shoot us an email to ourcuriouspodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.